Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Zooming in on a very important topic, and that is how to manage and overcome the manipulation tactics of a covert narcissist. It's a very insidious sort of divide that develops between a covert narcissist and those who are in an intimate relationship with them, either as a spouse, a family member, a business associate, because it tends to evolve over a long period of time and really unbeknownst to the others in their environment what is going on. The covert narcissist tends to be someone who is very self-absorbed, self-interested, essentially selfish, but they don't appear that way. They appear to be very good people, very gentle, very kind, very docile, and really to be, essentially unobtrusive in their nature. However, that is originally their hook, is that they're so placid that really they tend to then surround themselves with people who will really do a lot of the life work, whether it's taking care of the family, being very decisive, having a lot of energy to maintain the house, all these various things that really kind of carry a lot of the weight, a lot of the burden of the relationship. And really the beginning, generative experiences within the relationship can usually be extremely positive because, a loving, giving, caring person tends to fall right into place with this person, taking care of them, doing all sorts of things to make them happy, people please them, basically work to just dance and pivot around them, so that life essentially is about pleasing them. Life is essentially about keeping them happy, taking care of their needs. They tend to have so many needs, so it can become really a full-time job and a no-brainer. I mean, this person is truly easy to relate to, easy to take care of, easy to please, because they have so many areas which you can please them, through behaviors, through different, being decisive for them, being a leader, making their dinners, helping them with their bills, manage their calendar. I mean, you name it. The covert narcissist is very easy to relate to. And of course, with all relationships, there is that element of, having a give and take and a role for each other and being able to take care of each other. We're discussing here when this becomes pathological, out of balance, and is causing really an undue amount of duress in the relationship, where essentially one then becomes, completely subservient to taking care of this other person, and eventually begins to grow in a divide between the person and that narcissist. So there tends to become a real imbalance where, if that is perpetuated and you continue to take care of them and foster their needs without identifying and addressing your own needs and where you're experiencing, some issues, it tends to perpetuate, and the covert narcissist will just allow it to continue. So they won't, they're not usually going to be the one to complain. They're not usually going to be the one to say, hey, you're doing so much in the relationship here. Why don't you take care of yourself? I mean, why don't, don't you need this? Don't you need that? They're never going to really have that discussion. They're not really going to, they're not going to acknowledge your needs. They're not going to acknowledge your interests. They're not going to acknowledge your wishes and really what's required for you. I mean, basic stuff, because they do lack empathy. And even though it's just kind of like they just kind of float on by, that is their personality type. So they're not going to really address this, so you don't really kind of see it coming. So it's a very insidious sort of neglect or abuse. And oftentimes people feel like it's been going on for years. I'm just now, beginning to see this with clear eyes, that, my whole role was subservient to them. And here I thought it was a relationship, when it really is. There are certain elements of it that are not healthy and not beneficial to you, because you have had to exceed and really reduce your boundaries in order to satisfy them. So in terms of the, how to overcome this. So there's so much information here. We're going to need several videos to really discuss this and really get this into detail. But I want to also present some solutions to you so you can prevent this from getting worse, and also how to manage it. So number one is awareness. It's becoming aware that one's personality, one's identity, one's role has essentially become one-directional, or that of supply and support and subservience and giving admiration and acknowledgement and feeding this other person with everything that they need. So it's, complimenting, flattery, putting them first, putting them at the center, all the time. So this has become essentially a codependent role that was created and fostered and perpetuated by the narcissist. So we did, unbeknownst to you, you had become a willing participant in this. And the covert narcissist, as we've mentioned, will allow this to be perpetuated because they're getting their needs met. Really, that's all that's important to them. However, once you have really, become involved with them, you realize, hey, I really am not getting what I need here. I'm not getting the acknowledgement. If I were to stop basically all these supply behaviors, the relationship would fizzle. The relationship would go poof. I mean, in essence, you feel like you're carrying the relationship and by being in supply. So first, it's really that awareness that, wow, this has really become where it is now. This is where we're at. And this can no longer continue because I'm suffering, I'm unhappy, I can't continue this, it's exhausting. So that's essentially the rock bottom, and becoming aware that there's something wrong, there's an issue, and realizing the dynamics. So if you're involved with this covert narcissist, saying, okay, I see the role that I've played, it's time to put the brakes on, the foot down, to declare some boundaries, and realize you no longer need to perpetuate that cycle and being manipulated through those tactics. So it's really, in essence, stopping the maladaptive behaviors. It's saying, okay, now I realize this is not really serving me, this is not helping me, I need to declare some boundaries. I need to realize that I'm important, and I need to have a voice here, self-esteem. And so it's breaking away a little bit and acknowledging that. So depending on the type of relationship, if it's a spouse relationship and you feel like this other person, there's a growing divide, there's an accountability there where, you're not getting your needs met, they're not either, they're not speaking to you, they're not attentive to you, realize a couple of things. If they're a true covert narcissist, they do lack empathy, so oftentimes they're not going to be able to really understand where you're coming from. So, I mean, that is really, truly, a issue that you're going to have to accept and deal with. However, if you choose to, stay and kind of work through it and see where you can come together, you're going to need to bring some structure to the relationship, and you're going to need to bring these to their awareness. So some people do go through marriage counseling. They do go through relationship counseling. But realize that there are certain things that you can do, and I have a number of tools here we discuss on the channel. But number one is, also have some accountability issues, where you bring some structure to the relationship, and a lot of people do it just through having things written out. I know people who actually have, really great whiteboards or dry erase boards that they have, and they put up in, either in their kitchen or in their family room, or some sort of office where they have it, and then they, have a dry erase board with, different color markers, and they might get a good size one, and then write nice and big, so that certain things are getting accomplished around the house, so that things are up in front of you. Because keeping invisible, keeping silent is only going to perpetuate the abuse. So to get things out in the open, realize if you get it written down, you're showing some awareness of this and things that are important to you, and not in a judging way, not in a harsh way, but just as a very matter of fact, and that this is practical. And so keeping that level, neutral tone, is important, and and making sure that these are addressed in a sort of positive manner. So, for example, though you have to realize that the covert narcissist is oftentimes very resistant to change. They don't think that they're doing anything wrong. They don't think anything is wrong with how they've behaved, and you can't change that. So really, your acceptance of them and where they're at might be your biggest tool moving forward, is that the knowledge and awareness that the covert narcissist is oftentimes not able to change, because of their inflated sense of self-importance, and lack of empathy. They really don't see where they need to change. So, number one is, if you don't think you need to change something, they're not going to do it. So if that is an issue, then you need to move on to acceptance of them. And as a person that you are not able to perhaps work with, they're a little bit rigid and flexible, you're not going to be able to make a lot of tracks or progress with them. So each case is individual, each person is unique, but realize that that is a very important part of understanding and having a relationship with the covert narcissist. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.